And this would be our reading describing the Ashlesha native. And for all those watching, it's important to remember that when we read about the Ashlesha native, this is coming again from the author Radhe, who is a sidereal practitioner, which can make the things in this section a little bit dicey. There might be things we read that go against what we've read, as, you know, remember we've talked about how sidereal traditional jyotishis and practitioners of Vedic astrology might do a bit of distortion if you are a tropical astrologer like me. There's been distortions of authors who believe that there are intrinsic qualities of the nakshatra related to the sign that it's in. In this case, it's bound to be Leo either way, I believe. I'm pretty sure that the sidereal people also have Ashlesha. Oh, it might actually be in Cancer. Yeah. So Ashlesha really takes on a lot of the quality of Cancer for this reading. So this is why we have to, that's why we did the first part of this video, which is being mindful of the distortions possible when we talk about the character quality of Ashlesha. However, it's still useful for us to see what the old idea of Ashlesha is. We've just got to be discerning. We've got to separate the wheat from the chaff, because this author often does still have a pretty cool and interesting depiction of the character qualities of the nakshatras that she talks about. And this can be essentially for anybody with lots of planets. Oh, excuse me. With lots of planets in a nakshatra, with an ascendant in a nakshatra, even with any important angle or trine in this nakshatra. The ascendant lord in this nakshatra will be relevant as well, but especially the moon. When you have the moon in Ashlesha, this is going to be the character quality that you can expect from the Ashlesha native. The moon is the most connected. It's the lunar mansions, right? The nakshatras are the mansions of the moon. So if the moon is in Ashlesha, this will be very telltale and descriptive of the character qualities of that person. So now this is the native, the Ashlesha native. What are they like? Many of the native's personality characteristics are garnered from the nature and symbolism of snakes. The snake's shedding of skin is indicative of initiation, as well as transformation and rebirth. While shedding its skin, the snake undergoes a period in which its eyes cloud over and its sight is severely hindered. This necessitates hibernation in a safe place for several days. Once the skin is shed, his eyes become clear, allowing the snake to see the world distinctly again. True to the serpent nature of this nakshatra, the native undergoes major transformations in life, each time seeing the world and its truths more clearly. Yeah, I can really relate to that. Symbolic of the Kundalini energy, snakes suggest seductive and powerful sexual energy. Perhaps the native is drawn to spiritual practices focused on the awakening of the Kundalini. He may also be a sex therapist, or a sexual education teacher, or even perhaps a professional hypnotist or a snake charmer. And if not a hypnotist, then perhaps the native has hypnotic-like eyes. For similar qualities are found in snakes who, lacking eyelids, possess an unblinking, hypnotic type of stare. Depending on the tenure of the chart, the Ashlesha native may be particularly adept in the art of seduction, which leverages their ability to captivate and charm others through sensual allure. Alternatively, they may be the victim to such crafty practices as well. Now, we can take, for example, Marilyn Monroe, who, according to the author, has Ashlesha Lagna, so her ascendant must be around the same place as mine. My ascendant is around 13 degrees Leo. Tropical. Marilyn Monroe reports being sexually assaulted from an early age while living in various foster homes. In her early 20s, Monroe began her career as a model, which eventually presented opportunities for her in the film industry. As an actress, she was soon quickly typecast as the seductive dumb blonde. She went on to become the world's biggest sex symbol ever. Happens to have a Ashlesha Nakshatra on her Lagna. Very interesting. Now, snakes also symbolize ancient mystical knowledge and the hidden subconscious. Such aspects support an interest in psychology, the occult, and all things mystical. Healing fields addressing deep mental and emotional disorders, mental instability, neurosis, hysteria, manic depressive tendencies, systemic hallucinations, etc., or past life trauma. These are all supported by Ashlesha. So these are healing fields that address these mental issues. Likewise, the native may be drawn to modalities requiring the application of poisons, dangerous substances, or even untested drugs. This includes chemotherapy, radiation, and experimental drugs, as well as psychedelics in my case. It's very interesting to read this. As with each nakshatra, a murkier side surfaces, given the right chart conditions and the appropriate planets. By observing the conduct of snakes, we are afforded a glimpse into possible behavior of this darker side. When surprised, certain snakes abruptly rise up and strike with a death-inflicting bite. Similarly, there can be a strong defensive nature in this native. Untrusting and always alert. The native is ready to pounce when a threat is perceived. If caught off guard, he operates on a strike first, ask questions later basis. The method of victimization employed by particular snakes is a methodical strangulation. Slowly circling its victim, the snake tightens its squeeze every time its victim inhales. Interestingly, Ashlesha translates as the embracer, and its symbol is a closed circle or a wheel. That comes from Muhurta Chintamani, page 87. So enemies or competitors of the native may receive similar calculating and shrewd, slowly squeezing the life out of the person types of treatment. In the Puranic literature, Sarpas are particularly adept at shape-shifting, which they do either to protect the gods or to manipulate others for personal gain. Hidden agendas, craftiness, and frequent use of disguises are other potential aspects of an afflicted Ashlesha. The native's chart must be carefully analyzed in order to distinguish between a deadly venomous snake and the rather charming and useful garden snake. Of course, it always depends on the chart to see how any nakshatra qualities are going to ultimately play out. Now, finally, just as the various defense methods inherent in a snake, such as rattling its tail, hissing, flicking its tongue, etc., alerts its unsuspecting victim, the native may develop mechanisms such as a nervous laugh, a hypnotic stare, or the display of defensive body language. Despite the potential adverse consequences of Ashlesha, the fact remains that under supportive chart conditions, this nakshatra can produce great healers, therapists, shamans, and mystics. A perfect example of the many positive aspects of Ashlesha is seen in the life and accomplishments of Mahatma Gandhi, whose moon was in Ashlesha, according to Astro Databank. Gandhi became one of the most influential and powerful individuals in India. Best known for his principle of satyagraha, which is passive resistance, Gandhi was instrumental in India's independence, and he didn't do it through any overt war. He did it by slowly squeezing the British Raj with the forces of his people. Sick. Dope. A quiet and shy man during his early years, Gandhi underwent a major personal transformation while in South Africa. Witnessing discrimination and victimization of Indians in this country, Gandhi became an impressive public activist who spent the rest of his life protesting against discrimination and manipulation of others. Eventually, Gandhi took the vow of brahmacharya, which is in part a vow of celibacy. There remains much controversy over Gandhi's carnal experiments as a brahmacharian, and indeed his sexuality became a very public aspect of his life. I've heard examples that, Gandhi used to surround himself with beautiful young women, and he would sit and he would stay and retain a state of meditative composure and focus within as the temptations of the young women around him were there. And that was part of his whole shtick there. Interesting thing. In any case, that was our reading, ladies and gentlemen. We've just learned about the nature of Ashlesha, and a lot of it rings true to me. Again, I have Ashlesha Lagna. My Lagna falls in the sign of, in the nakshatra of Ashlesha. So it's interesting. It's amazing, the similarities I see there. We've talked a lot today, so I think that we're going to call her one now, folks. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this.